allegiance to the flag, States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll get it later.
Okay. Did you hear that they wanted to move the applicants in front? They have to say all that.
Well, we'll be into, at the end of the correspondence, so I'll take that. Okay, so we're gonna move forward to the audience of citizens. Audience of citizens, anybody here?
Hi, Francesco.
Okay, fine, thank you. Appreciate it. Audience of, okay, so we have that approval of the minutes. Anybody want to make them look at the minutes? Everybody approve any deletions, adds, whatever?
Somebody's in the audience. I don't know who.
There was a quick typo under new business. The first sentence, it says crows. I think that could probably just be deleted. That was just a typo.
On page,
Yeah, to revisit and examine big crows. I think that meant to be crowds.
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 thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else that anybody might have noticed? If not, I'd like a motion to accept the minutes.
Make a motion to accept the minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I abstain, obviously.
Okay, moving on, we have correspondence. Do we have any correspondence?
He's in the seat.
Actually, we have some correspondence that we just got in.
Did?
So if you don't mind, I will pass this out to everybody.
Sure.
This is a letter from the New Britain Police Department thanking us for their assistance. We had a situation where an arrest was made in New Britain. And because of the close association with one of the officers there, they felt it would be inappropriate for them to house that prisoner there in New Britain. They asked if we would help them out, which we did. So we housed that prisoner for them over the weekend, and this is a thank you letter for them for assisting them. We work very closely with New Britain, and there was no cost factor to do this. They brought food for the prisoner and everything for the weekend. But this was just better for them, to have them housed here.
Well, it's very much appreciated. Thank you letter for Chief Marino. That's correct.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Chief. Appreciate that. Okay, moving on, we're going to add Attorney Jeff D'Onofrio will be speaking to us right now over the residency clause for the Chief of Police. Please address the commission, please.
Sure. Do you have a specific question about it? You texted me last Friday and asked if I could come and
Yes.
talk to the commission, but is there a specific question? I mean, the residency issue, I drafted the original contract back in October of 2021.
He said no.
Was approved by the town council. And that contract has a provision, paragraph 5, the chief shall establish his primary residence in Berlin, Connecticut within 1 year hereof, unless the commission issues a written waiver or extension of this requirement. That initial contract had a 1 year term expiring October 31 of 2022. Then apparently the commission on November 1 of 2022 executed, provided chief with an extension of that employment agreement that was signed by the chief December 19th of 22, signed by town manager December 20th, and by the then chair of the police commission on December 19th. That extension has that same residency provision and was a 4-year extension, so the term expires October 31.
He's reading the contract there.
So there's a residency provision that's in the extension of the contract, the current contract. It says unless the commission issues a written waiver or extension of this requirement. I've never seen any written waiver, and I don't know whether or not the commission voted to waive it.
You.
I haven't scoured your meeting minutes for the last 3 years to see whether you did that.
I ventured to say that we had a third vote and two of the commissioners weren't available for it. And I believe Melissa Yernaga and Ryan Zelik and me were actually present. And there was a third meeting because there was an issue with the chief not getting money for compensation for the benefits that he wasn't used, which led to Paula Carabetta producing one in 23.
Okay, I have also an extension of employment agreement, again dated November 1, 2022. That was signed by the town manager on March 6th of 23 by the then chair of the police commission
Steve
on
Wilson.
February 3 of 23 by the chief on March 3 of 2023. That has the same residence.
Now, from what I understand, and I do believe that we did this, we took a vote in executive session. Or we
Let
neglect.
vote in executive session, that's illegal.
Okay. No
Votes in executive session, because executive session excludes the public. And you can't have deliberative government action. The Freedom of Information Act prohibits any votes in executive session
Okay.
on anything.
Then could it have possibly been a discussion of what we neglected to do the
Exactly what
documentation
you did there.
side of?
I have no idea. I don't know what to do.
So anyway, getting the long and the short, we have the ability to give an exemption to the.
Yes.
Well, yeah, I guess what I'm struggling with is this contract was presented to the town council and voted on by the town council in 2021. If there's a desire to eliminate a provision from the contract, I certainly would expect it to be some dialogue between the commission and the town council about it.
Where the town charter doesn't require that.
Where does it require you to communicate with the town council about a contract that's been approved by the town council? That's not in the charter.
Well, section 434 of the charter says the board is in charge of the hiring and police chief. So we put that provision in there, what should be our choice to take it out. Not the town councils.
There's a provision that's been in the contract, that's still in the contract, that you haven't waived.
Well, we can do that now and end this, right?
If that's the position that you want to take and you don't want to talk to the town council about it, that's your business. I would ask what other provisions of the contract are there? For example, the next paragraph, performance goals. Is that being complied with?
I think a conversation with the
Yeah.
town council is appropriate, but I would agree with that.
I'll make a motion to waive the requirement for the town residency from the chief's
It's not
contract.
on the agenda.
Well, it can be added, it's a regular meeting, correct?
Want to make a motion to add it? Go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion to add an agenda item to waiving the chief's residency requirement from his contract.
Can I say something right before? I think I should say something on behalf of the chief. So I'm representing the chief. There's some dialogue tonight from Attorney D'Onofrio. I understand there's a resolution now pending before this commission. The chief has a valid and enforceable contract. I think Attorney D'Onofrio would agree with me that you're going to expose this town to litigation that I don't foresee you guys prevailing. It's an enforceable contract. We have key witnesses that will testify to the written waiver and extension requirement as discussed. And the agreement for the chief is enforceable through 2026, October of 2026. And we would submit to you tonight to not rock the boat for the chief. Let him finish out his contract. He's performing well for the town. I don't think there's any dispute there. And again, I think this exposes the town to a substantial amount of litigation, given the enforcement contract.
What exposes the town? If there's a written waiver, just show it to me.
Well, no, there isn't a win, as far as
Okay,
we
well, that's
know.
what the contract says, in the most recent contract, all the contracts that have been signed say that. So all we're saying is, has the contract been complied with? And if they wanna add it to their agenda and have a discussion and take action on it, that's their business.
Sure, I don't disagree.
I have a quick question. So it's been in the contract since 2022, right?
The
And we're,
original contract in 2021.
okay, so it's been in the contract and then,
Extension carried it forward.
excuse me, can I finish? It's been in the contract since 2021. We renewed it in 2022. It's 2025. How come all of this is just becoming an issue?
I was asked to come here.
I'm just curious
Well,
as
I
to,
did.
It wasn't just wandering the halls.
well,
I would like
what,
to-
I'm just asking a question, like, why is this all coming to light now? I know that you were asked to be here, but I guess why? Where is this becoming an issue?
I'd like to see if I can take an attempt at answer. When we interviewed and hired the chief, this was at the very beginning of COVID. It was very unfortunate. What happened
Hogan.
is that point in time, once that started, everybody was bailing out of New York, coming to Berlin, Connecticut, and anything that was for sale was asking price and above. So the simplicity of trading domiciles by selling one and buying another one really was off the table. It was off the table for an extensive period of time. The chief agreed to a contract for was 1 year plus additional 4. And right now we're down to 1.5, roughly 1.5 years before it ends. So the question is how do we handle this fairly? That satisfies the town and satisfies the chief being able to finish his contract with, because to move here for 1.5 years to finish your contract is not a reasonable thing to ask someone. So here we are, we really have a contract. Would anybody else like to?
Yeah, I'd like to speak. Can I speak?
Yes, sir.
Can I just ask a quick question, Chief?
Sure.
Attorney D'Onofrio, I haven't seen that contract. I'm fairly new on the commission, so I'm just kind of looking for the specific language and your interpretation of it. Does it require, and again, it's a legal interpretation, but does it require like domicile, residency? Does it distinguish? Or can you kind of shed some light on the actual requirement of the contract in your opinion?
The language, it's been the same language in each contract. I drafted the original contract. I did not draft the extensions. Okay. So whoever provided these, the original language for residency is still in the contract. That says the chief shall establish his primary residence in Berlin, Connecticut within 1 year hereof, unless the commission issues a written waiver or extension of this requirement.
So would you interpret primary residence meaning if the chief lives in, I'm going to make up a town, it's not his home, but if he lives in Simsbury, he would need to get residence in Berlin and use that at least 51% to satisfy a primary?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't remember being part of the discussion about why the town chose to use primary residence instead of residence, like we have with the town manager, which is by charter. But that,
And do you know, historically, for the previous contracts of similar language, is it meaning like, is the contract kind of a copy paste from previous years?
I
or-
haven't, to be honest with you, I haven't checked.
No, the last two chiefs did not live in town.
I know Chief Platt lived in Millington. But
Gerald was
before
not in
that,
town.
Yeah,
all I know is what this contract says, guys. I don't know whether you issue a written waiver or an extension or not. I know the proper way that it's supposed to be done.
I remember waiving it.
We didn't do it correctly.
We didn't do it correctly. Because of, like you said, the housing market got insane. It's not.
So if it was done incorrectly by mistake, that's probably something this commission could fix, but
yeah. I would also like a copy of the contracts, because like you said, if there's something in there that we're not satisfying, I want to make sure that we're on top of that. So if he needs annual appraisals or what have you, I'd like to be made aware of that.
Yeah, I mean, with all due respect, it's the police department. rules and contracts matter.
Yeah,
So I'll give you a copy right now. Nobody calls me and says to me, hey, how do we do a waiver?
Do you have extra copies for all of the commission?
Would you like me to make
That would
copies
be
to my
wonderful.
office? You don't
Thank
mind
you,
me-
I got that from the town clerk.
Okay.
Thank you.
No problem.
I have a question. Okay, Commissioner. Please speak.
Attorney DiNapoli, so in the contract, it indicates that the chief must establish primary residence within 1 year of when, 2021?
It said 1 year hereof, so the way that I deem it is, once it was renewed, it was 1 year from that date.
And when was that?
Well, the second.
November of
22
22.
is the
Mhm.
effective date. So it would have been November 1 of 23. but about 1 year.
Does the contract specify what happens if the chief does not establish primary residency? Other than obvious breach, is there any? It doesn't say he shall be removed or anything like that. Okay.
I don't want to start out, that's what I know.
I think the chief wanted to speak, but I think we wait for Joan, right?
Yes, it's on the record.
Yeah.
Alex, I have one. It's just a. What's this?
Contract.
That's the one before the latest one.
Drop big, I forgot.
The original version?
Same language. See what it says.
So that's the new one, 22.
Oh, this is the first one with Chief
No,
McNally?
second
one.
Second
Second?
extension.
Okay.
That came from the mayor.
It's hard for me to read this on the spot. I need to.
Digest.
Attorney DiNapoli, while we have this moment, can I ask you,
Wait,
it's a legal question,
okay,
yeah.
sorry, I just want to make sure it's on.
When we vote for hiring applicants, does that have to be done in open forum or executive session?
When you do an interview, it's a non-meeting, so that could be private. When you actually vote, it should be in public.
To hire the applicant?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just the vote. The interviews are private.
Okay. Thank you.
There's an exemption under FOIA for interviews. So,
And not say nothing.
So Attorney DiNapoli, if in theory,
He's gonna sue him.
Does it need to be
Mary,
in-
I'm sorry.
Does it need to be on the record? I just want to be mindful that Joan's not here.
I will wait.
Sorry. I don't-
No, you're right. You're absolutely right.
there yet. Okay. Good look over if you want.
Slow copy. It's a slow copy. Might not work with it.
All the way.
This is. It's taking a while.
Yeah, well,
Copy machines,
Just
print
maybe we
press.
need to-
she needs to get back there.
I think
I
that's
thought I
where.
heard it door.
So,
I mean, if we all need time, just. We all need time to review the contract too, that might be nice to do.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, I mean, arbitration rates.
Plus, it sounds like it has to be in writing anyway.
Our chairman. Oh. Just let me get my-
The leach would be like discussion. Settle this. But also arbitrators getting that for this. But you're right. This is like the guidance.
Yeah, it sounds like.
we'll just stay.
You have no idea.
I don't see an executive session on these minutes.
Yeah. So
I don't see it
on the agenda,
on the agenda.
it's there. It was.
Oh, everything does.
Oh, okay, thank you.
What's it, Joan?
Thanks, John. He's gonna be. That's yours.
I have
To the not.
You want one next? Dave? Yeah, probably have one.
Thank you, Alfie.
Thank you for.
Oh, no problem. Thanks.
Whatever.
My machine doesn't put it all together.
Is it appropriate for me to say what I'm thinking? My thought is
Oh, I
that,
possibly know that. I don't know what you're thinking.
well, I want to say it. What I want to say is that I would like to put this to rest tonight. I think, I'm not speaking for the other commissioners here, that we are in favor of coming up with an exemption. What we would like to do is have the time to reach out to you to write one. And we'd like to also reach out to the town council to get them to agree to it. And then we can resume this next month. Does that sound fair, Attorney Denafrio?
Whatever your prerogative is, I don't.
Yeah, I'm going to withdraw my motion to give us time to read the contract and see what else maybe we are missing.
Just ask a question.
Sure, absolutely.
Weren't some of you on the commission when this renewal contract was?
Yes,
Issued about
yes.
2 years ago?
Yeah,
And you guys haven't seen the contract?
no, we were kind of put in the dark by the previous chairman.
Correct.
Did the commission vote on the extension? Because the council didn't.
Yes, we did.
So you voted on it without
I had-
seeing it?
Yeah, well, we just voted to extend the contract for 4 years. But we never got to see the worded verbiage. Steve Wilson just signed it. with the town manager.
But didn't give a draft.
Yeah, we never saw a draft, which was common for previous chair.
All right, so that's where we're at. Okay, so this will be to be continued. That's bottom line.
Mr. Chair, before we continue, I just have one question.
Absolutely.
Actually, maybe to you, Council.
Thank you.
What exactly are you, what are your concerns on behalf of your client tonight? Can you
Sure.
just elaborate on that for me?
Yeah, so the current employment agreement, assuming all things are equal, covers the date up to and including October 31st, 2026. Okay. At the time of the approval, the chief's extension, who was, I guess, Steve Wilson, the chairman, he was specifically told by the board that they were waiving the residency requirement. That agreement, as we just said, was signed by Steve Wilson on behalf of the board. I understand you guys didn't see that, but that is what happened. And Mr. Wilson is prepared to testify that that is what happened. There was never a discussion regarding residency of versus domicile or maintaining an apartment in town to spend at least one night per week. So trying to make the chief do that now, I mean, you guys may think that he is in breach, but firstly, the town is in breach, exposing to a potential liability again. So that is our position. That is what how we interpret the contract, and we believe that given what we've just heard a few seconds ago, that is in fact the interpretation that the chief had.
So you believe the contract as it stands allows him to not reside, or you believe that there was an exemption, either oral or in written format?
Exemption given to the chief by Steve Wilson, former chairman, relating to this contract that's you now have in front of you, relating to the residency.
And do you know if that was oral or written? Do you
To
know?
our knowledge, it's oral. Chief was never given anything in writing. But again, Steve Wilson, be willing to testify under oath that that is in fact what happened.
Can I ask you a question? It's just an open discussion, right? It shows through this right instead of executive session. I'm not trying to give the chief a hard time here, but as the town attorney for the last 9 years, I'm finding out that there's an oral extension to a contract that says there has to be written. How come you never sent me anything and said this has been waived? I mean, the chief
It's a great
certainly
question.
understands it says written.
Steve.
So if Steve Wilson told him orally, why is there any question about what commission issues a written waiver or extension? That's unambiguous. I just don't understand how it even got to this point. Why this was never treated seriously and left to this kind of discussion.
It's unfortunate it got here, but that's,
Well, you're correct. There's no,
It doesn't say oral. It doesn't say a commissioner. It says the commission.
Do you think I could have a chance to address that?
sure. Go ahead, chief. Can you hear us, chief? Go ahead.
Yeah, I can hear you fine. You know, I think tonight's a prime example of the fact that I'm there all the time and I stay online and in touch at all times, whether my ass is sleeping there or not. But the truth of the matter is, there was 5 commissioners the night that we were in executive session when my contract was being extended, because originally Commissioner Hiranaga wanted to do it 7 years, and I said, let's just do 4 years and see how it goes. And then that's when the commissioners said, Steve Wilson and Paul Eschew was there then, he's not there now, said, well, we're not gonna make you come to town. And that was my belief, that that was what they had to do. So that was good until just Christmas of this year, when all of a sudden now there's this big issue. You know, maybe I'm foolish because I did a gentleman's agreement with the town, believing the town was doing the right thing. And, you know, we had this contract and all we're doing was extending it. But clearly, I was told I didn't have to come back and move into town. The previous 2 chiefs for 20 years did not live in town. So I would like to know, 1, why I'm being signaled out now. 2, if there is procedural errors, those procedural errors are in the meetings that we had without council present during those meetings. And none of us at the time sitting on the commission or in at that table were attorneys. So yeah, there were some errors made, it looks like. But I don't think it's fair that I have to go through this and to sit on this for another month where, you know, I'm trying to figure out how to do my job every day. And I've got this cloud hanging over my office and hanging over me and my personnel, and it's affecting everybody in the building. So, you know, my lawyer, I can't even see him. I don't see who's under the camera. So I have no idea who's in the room besides the people I see at the table. And I just think that it's unfair that this happens tonight when you know I'm 1,000 miles away on a personal issue that I couldn't get out of. That's what I wanted to say.
Well, Chief, by the way, nice to meet you, John Dyke.
Sorry, John. I'm sorry I didn't get to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Chief.
Welcome.
And Chief, I'll direct this to your counsel. I think based on the unambiguous language that Attorney D'Onofrio was pointing out, I think it's in your client's best interest to straighten this out. And the town can only do what's lawful, and certainly, the chief can't expect rights that he hasn't been granted. And I think it's in his interest to get this right. And I think that you would agree with that.
I think I would agree that the contract is up for interpretation, and although it's.
I can't see how you think that, but that's with
Well,
all.
it says unless the commission issues. The chief of the commission?
No.
No.
he's the
Right.
chief.
Right.
Well, this is
So
why I think
how is it the onus on him when it was Steve Wilson who should have written on behalf of the commission?
Well,
that right?
But it's his it's his employment contract. It's his best interest to make sure that his, rights are clear. And
Commissioner, I'm not disagreeing with you. However, I will tell you that it says here pretty clearly, unless the commission, not the chief, the commission issues the written.
we need
In
to
which
be
they-
able
which-
to have a written
which didn't
written
happen.
exemption.
Right, so how does that fall on my client?
Because you can't rely on it.
But he has the exemption through the authority.
No, he doesn't.
Well, again, that's, again, the commission should have written.
Why didn't, all you had to do was ask me.
Well, apparently you didn't know either because the commission didn't tell you.
Nobody asked for it.
So, I mean,
Somebody should have asked
I'm the
for it.
recording
If it was
secretary.
being relied on, somebody should ask.
Listen, if the commission just fixes the error made years ago, then puts it in writing, then we should be all
Why
set.
can't we do that over the next month? Chief, would you have a problem if we just do this correctly over this next month and get it over with? I realize you would like it done tonight, but I think to write it correctly with Attorney D'Onofrio is in everybody's best interest. Is that okay?
I'd like to have consultation with my attorney, but I can't because he's standing under the camera right now about
Yeah.
that.
Would you like to
Even
have
more
a
of a reason to
conversation,
push this off.
step out of the room and have a conversation with Matt directly?
Well, I'm sure I could have a conversation. Chief, I can certainly call you, but I'd like to know what you mean by doing it correctly. What is?
Well,
a
it should be,
waiver?
it should be written, it should be formulated, it should be written, it should be done, it should be reviewed by our town's attorney. And then we simply, at that point, it gets presented to the commission and we take a vote and approve it.
Okay.
So that's-
I would like to take some time to talk to the chief and make sure we're all on the same page.
Okay,
I don't think that's it.
If you wanna do it now, go.
Yeah,
You can log off or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, we have some people we need to bring in for them. to
All right, that's fine.
interview.
Yeah, we're gonna go
into executive
Take some time and
We're gonna go
we'll interview those candidates and.
All right, sounds good. Let me do that.
I'll make a motion that we go into executive session
For
the purpose
for the purpose of,
Discussions?
employment discussion.
Not there anymore.
No, I don't think so.
Do you need to be here, Attorney D'Onofrio?
I don't know what they're talking.
I was gonna say, I'd be reluctant to say,
Right, do you need to
Without
be
knowing
here
what-
when they return?
It's up to you.
So if you're okay with it, I wouldn't mind you waiting.
I don't know what they're talking about.
I would stay, please.
yeah, I would.
A second. for-
I'll second, sorry.
Okay, thank you. No, that's okay.
What's the motion?
To
Go into executive session for the-
about hiring.
For the applicant?
For the
Yes.
applicants.
All right, so we want
For
to
the
start with,
interview of that.
want to start with applicant one?
Yes, start with
Alexandra?
that.
No, fun fact, we don't have to vote to come in and out.
Sorry.
We just learned.
You don't? That would be something.
Okay, so are we all set? Everybody's here?
We're back in public session.
If you
We're
want.
back in public session. What we've decided as a consensus amongst the commissioners is under the circumstances that we want to have Attorney D'Onofrio for the town put together a written exemption that can be presented to us next month, and in the interim, we're gonna present it to the town council for us to take a vote on next.
Is it a written waiver or an extension? Said exemption.
Well, I believe it says exemption.
No.
No, it is a waiver.
Written
or
waiver.
extension?
Written waiver.
Which is it?
Waiver.
Well, then it'll be waived.
Waiver, written waiver.
With waiver.
So from us, we're fine with that, obviously, that's favorable. What we would ask is for the commission tonight to take a vote. So it's on the record that you're in favor of the waiver. And then, I mean, in terms of the waiver itself, I mean, we're talking a sentence, like this provision is waived. So I don't know that it really needs to take a full month to get that done and reviewed by Attorney D'Onofrio. It's a one-liner in our opinion, and we would like to see that, sort of done in short order for purposes of what's been going on here tonight. So two things, we'd like a vote on it by the commission tonight, on the record that you vote in favor of the waiver, and then in short order, some type of waiver, really, again, it's very short and to the point, indicating that under this contract, this residency exempt requirement is waived.
Well, I would defer that to Attorney D'Onofrio for his recommendation. Would you agree to that? Is that something? we
It's
do
not
that?
it's not a legal issue. What you're being asked to do is vote. It's totally your decision whether you want to vote tonight or whether you want to communicate with counsel and let them know what you're doing before you do it. It's not for the town attorney to decide that, it's you to decide.
I would prefer with your consideration that we take the time to be polite, speak to town council. And
Why is this vote different than any other vote you guys do where you don't need to inform the council?
The contract that was approved by the council.
Right, but the whole process we just discussed has been backwards from the
I don't,
beginning.
it doesn't mean we continue with that one.
But a
Let's get it
vote,
right.
a vote on it is not.
Well, I'm not opposed to a vote, but I'm telling them it's whatever they're comfortable.
I'm asking for a vote.
I'm uncomfortable with the vote.
I agree. I'm not in favor of a vote tonight.
But what's gonna change between now and next month?
We're gonna have drafted language from our corporation council.
Saying literally in one sentence, this provision is waived. That's what would make you feel more comfortable,
Absolutely.
as opposed to.
The
Well,
contract
as
says
evidence,
written.
as evidenced, we were under the impression that the written was already submitted by the
Right.
previous chair, and that didn't happen, so I want to see
Right,
something in
and
writing.
I understand, but
Before I
the chief
approve
has been, I don't think he should have to be held in limbo for the next month. When they could just give an affirmative stance tonight on a vote by the commission indicating that we vote to issue him the waiver. We're gonna present it to the council, we're gonna draft it, send it to Attorney D'Onofrio. And next month we'll make it official, but tonight, on the record, we would appreciate a vote on the issue of waiver. You guys are all in agreement. Everyone, we're gonna waive it. Why can't we put it to a vote to put it in the record?
Any of the commissioners have a,
Well, first of all, we would have to add that to the agenda. That's number one. And number two, I don't know how that vote would, just one second. I don't know how that vote would come out, and I'm not gonna prejudge my fellow commissioners.
Well, that's interesting, Counselor, because you just said a while ago that people were in favor of voting for the waiver. So how do you not know how the vote would come out?
Because I'm not these fine lady and
All
gentlemen.
right, well, let's find out now. Why can't we vote and see what the waiver, I mean, Chairman, you said that you were gonna issue a waiver. I just don't understand how now we're not.
We're gonna wait for corp counsel, at least that's my opinion. And, that's my opinion, and the writing's on the wall, we're asking corp counsel for a waiver. But honestly, he's brand new, this is his first minute here. That's really unfair for him to take a vote, and kind of, some people are surprised by this topic of conversation. And it also gives the town council enough time for notice. And they don't have a say because it's our commission's decision, but out of deference to them and respect for the town council and the mayor, I believe having that letter to them is respectful, and that's how I feel comfortable about where we're going to proceed on my position.
Understood, Counselor. However, we're talking about two different things. We're talking about a waiver versus a vote. The council doesn't need your vote.
I know that, yeah, but out of deference and respect for them, I would like for them to get a copy of that letter at the advice of Attorney DiNapoli as well.
Attorney DiNapoli-
3 lawyers, 4 lawyers in this room.
Sir, I respectfully do not want to engage in discussion back and forth. I've made up my mind. And that's where I stand.
And I would definitely, or that's the correct way to do it. We made this mistake apparently back in 22, 23. We don't want to repeat the same mistake. We've never had any.
We're gonna get it done.
Okay, I would just prefer it to be on the record, but if you're insisting not to do it on the record, that's fine. I can't force you to do it on the record. But it is interesting that tonight there will not be a vote on it as opposed to the waiver issue. So,
No, that's it.
Mhm.
All right, let's move on.
Just so
Thank
I'm
you.
clear, you want me to draft
A
a
waiver.
waiver of the residency requirement, and you want it retroactive to when it should have been?
Correct.
Yeah, November 22.
Year and a half ago.
To the full term of the remainder.
22, November 22.
Matt, when was the last one? 23?
No, 22.
No, 22.
November
through-
22
So it would have expired November 1 of 23. would be
Yeah.
the effective date.
till the end of the existing contract.
Through 26.
No, I understand. I'm just talking about the effective date. I understand it's still the end. The effective date has to be retroactive. Another way of reading this is supposed to have done this within 1 year.
So the printout we have right here says, the first day of November 22nd. I would assume that that's the date you want to use.
Well, no, because it had to be made. The language says you have to establish primary residence within 1 year.
Okay.
So that would be November 1, 22 is when that 1 year starts. That takes you to November 1 of 23. And you want the waiver to be effective November 1 of 23, so that it's not in violation of that.
There's no breach.
Yeah, right.
Just a point of information is is it in writing that the initial was waived? From the initial first year of the contract, that was in writing that the residency was waived, correct? No, so we have to, it was,
2 weeks.
No, it was renewal.
I had one last night.
It was, yeah, we had,
Contract was
You
renewed.
had a contract that was a 1 year contract.
yes, and that initial 1 year contract,
So
the
when that-
residency was waived.
It's not waived.
Never mind.
so he originally started November 1st of 21.
That's
correct?
the
Mhm.
original contract.
So that's the original date.
And then
Got it.
on November 1st of 22 is when we agreed to a 4-year extension.
Yes, the way that I'm interpreting it is that didn't breach that first contract that required primary residence within 1 year absent waiver or extension.
We need to,
Because 1 year to the day, a renewal set the clock running again on that 1 year. That's the way I'm interpreting it.
so the start date needs to be,
November 1 of 23 would be the effective date of the waiver.
and
That
that,
way it covers the whole period of issue.
all right, so we're all set then if we start.
I know what to draft, yeah.
Okay, that's fine. Any commissioners have any concerns? This one? Chief, do you have any concerns?
My only concern is that you're worried about the respect to everybody else, but I don't feel respected at all tonight, so I have no other concerns. We'll have to take this further.
Well, we're moving on. Trustee Benton.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right, we want to start with bringing are we doing this in executive session?
Yes.
Yes, so
Back in
I
executive session.
move that we returning back to executive session for the discussion concerning employment.
Yeah, Jim?
We ever have a situation. Deny something, they want to talk to us about it, and then we gotta go back into executive. No, you just look, see, have a nice night.
We're gonna go back to the open session and then they're gonna vote on each one.
Right. No idea what these meetings are gonna look like.
So we're out of executive session, first and second.
We don't have to first and second.
You got us out, Mike? Good?
Yeah.
8:20.
Recording that?
So we're just gonna draft right into the regular session.
We have to make a vote. We have to make a motion to do the vote, or just make a. So,
Yeah, we have to make a motion.
so Mr. Chairman, maybe what we do is we make a motion to approve the application and then we can see how that goes.
Yeah, I believe that would be the correct way of doing it.
I'll make a motion to approve the application for Alexandra Picard.
Second.
Second, all in
No,
favor?
we can have, you want discussion? All,
Is there any discussion? I think we've had it.
Mhm.
We're all good?
Mhm.
All right, all in favor?
aye.
So there you go.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Welcome to the Berlin Police Department. All right, this is your official letter. This. And swearing in chief's gonna be the 26th. Morning of the 26th,
Okay,
starting Monday and then the 26th official swearing in.
Yep.
What time is the official swearing in?
9
a.m.
9.
Okay.
Never time.
So-
All right, thank you for coming.
26th.
March 26th.
Yeah,
February 26th. I mean, maybe March 26th, we can do it again.
Do it twice.
Which academy do we have for these?
we're back on the 25th, Tuesday, right?
My marks on my skin.
9 o'clock in the morning on the 26th.
Good, right?
It's first.
This is the
July.
second.
Okay.
So,
Good. If you want to make some, I'll second you this time.
all right, welcome back in. Okay, we need a motion to accept the application.
I make a motion to accept the application for Josiah Albert.
Approved.
Need a second?
Approve, sorry.
Second.
Do we have any discussion?
Mhm.
Already had that?
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Congratulations, welcome to the Berlin Police Department. Your official letter, we were now hired by the Berlin Police Department starting Monday morning, 8 o'clock in the morning. This is when we'll do the swearing in. Come in Monday morning, just like business casual now. All right?
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
See you Monday morning. Darian?
I don't remember that.
Very
Yeah.
sick and all.
It's driving home ecstatic.
Just gonna explain.
Such a deep breath out.
Yeah.
I
I'm gonna
think
feel
we
the
live
same way
definitely
whenever
good
time.
Okay, guys, we're gonna do this,
I
we're gonna do it the same way.
Not for
Yeah,
sure.
but then-
Explain to us. Should I explain? to you?
Driving and crying.
Well, welcome back in again.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we need to explain the situation.
Less discussion, right?
No, I think just,
Go for it. Okay, so we need a motion to accept the application.
well, I'll make a motion, so I'll make a motion to accept the application for the next available opening when there is one.
Mhm.
I'll second.
Neil second,
Second.
all.
Well, and you want in discussion, you want to explain in discussion?
Well, I'm gonna say right now, we have a discussion, okay? And I'll explain in discussion what the situation is. Is that we are tentatively waiting for another opening or in addition to us increasing our going from 46 to 47 or 48. I'm gonna work very hard on trying to do the latter. And that means I have to negotiate with the finance board and with the town council. But I am extremely interested in you joining the Berlin PD. And I would really, truly respect the fact that if you could give us a bit of time here to be able to get you over the finish line, that is truly our desire. I'm so impressed with your background, with what you've done, the quality of your life, your debt, everything is amazing. That there are young people out there that still really get it. And I take my hat off to you. So if you're willing to work with those parameters, technically, we're gonna take a vote.
Do you understand? So this would,
Yeah.
if we voted in the affirmative, it would be a pre-approval, so the next opening would go.
You wouldn't have to come back here. It would just happen and you'd be notified.
You'll be notified by either the chief or the deputy chief. Okay, so we're going to take a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So there
Okay,
you go.
congratulations.
Yeah.
All right,
guys.
Please.
Thank
Have a
you,
good night.
thank you.
All right.
Just that additional place.
Do it. Basically.
We've never done it.
Yeah, it's good. Years later. Very.
Never had that.
I don't think that's gonna happen.
My 12 years here.
But no, but that's, I think, that's more our problem. It is.
100%.
All right, we're going to move on to the rest of the meeting, but I am going to streamline this if you don't mind.
Steve?
So Chief's monthly report. Chief, is there anything that you would like to talk about?
The only thing I really want to point out is that this monthly report has the department's goals for 2025 listed. And we have department goals like I've done in the past, and then we have individual goals for each of the 3 divisions that the divisions develop themselves under the division goals heading on the 5th page with each of their individual goals that they're looking to get completed in 2025. And then the other thing I want to point out is that the department is we're at the beta test site right now for the law enforcement phlebotomist pilot program. And we have a phlebotomist in our department. This was heavily supported by the state's attorney's office, Chris Watson, the state's attorney for our GA. And Officer Delgado is a certified phlebotomist, and we're going through the law enforcement phlebotomist program, which is the state's push towards blood testing in fatal and serious motor vehicle accidents. And I anticipate in the future it'll be for some other criminal investigations too. So that's another area that we've been asked to partner up with the state on and lead the way. I think if you to Commissioner Dakin, you're new, so the other commissioners have seen that we've been doing this pretty regularly, where we get asked a lot of times by the state to take the lead on some of these new ideas, and we're pretty proud because we've always been successful about that.
I think we're one of only maybe 3 in the state that currently have a phlebotomist.
Yes.
We're pretty progressive in that area.
Which is gonna be pretty sought after.
I have one quick question on warrant sweeps. And it looks like if we do a specific date for warrant sweeps, why is that, out of curiosity? Why is that not something that's done on a regular basis? Yeah, it would be page 5 of 8. At the very bottom, it says goal 1 under investigation division goals. I guess that's a question that Lieutenant Solik could answer.
Yeah. I mean, warrant sweeps, individual officers are responsible for serving their individual warrants, but these are targeted efforts that we make to try to identify fugitives that haven't had their warrants served on them. They could be people that didn't show up for the court dates, or arrest warrants that we have on the books that haven't been served for various reasons. It could be people that don't want to be found, but we make.
He lives in Berlin, though?
Not necessarily, no, just warrants that we have from crimes in Berlin. They don't necessarily live in Berlin. They're actually
You go get them.
more likely on these events. We usually look outside of Berlin because the people that have warrants that live in Berlin are usually much easier to find. We usually know where they are.
You should.
If I could add, in the past 6 years, Connecticut's had 2 statewide operation targeted warrant sweeps, and the second one, I was the chief in Berlin, and we participated in that operational one. But this is above and beyond that, so this would be more for our local warrants.
Okay. Above, you did mention a phlebotomist, earlier in drawing samples. Out of curiosity, like in a DUI, you can refuse a breathalyzer. Can they do the same thing and refuse to give a blood sample? Yes.
The idea of the program, which is being pushed by the Department of Public Health and with the support of the Chief State's Attorney's Office and the individual GAs, is that they're trying to develop and come up with a electronic search warrant. And it would be done in the field, but you don't take the blood in the field. Part of the phlebotomy program would be that we would get the phlebotomist chair and all the equipment and all is going to be brought to Berlin for us to implement. And then this wouldn't be on every, say, DWI arrest. It would be on major cases, our fatalities. And so, you know, they're working out, this is above our level, where the court and the prosecutors are working out a way to expedite the search warrant requirement. You can refuse your breath test, you can refuse the urine test, and you can refuse the blood test, but you don't get charged with refusal on the blood test. So we would have to do a search warrant for the blood. If we were doing it now, the way it's been done previously, the state's moving away from urine testing. The Department of Public Health says too many people are sending too much urine to them and they can't keep up with all the testing. Well, the reason why they're getting so many urine tests is because we are looking at not just alcohol consumption, but also the use of cannabis and other illegal substances. So officers in the field are erring more towards having both alcohol and drug usage. So this all kind of fits that program where they're getting away from, they don't want the urine test. A lot of people refuse the breathalyzer, but in a major case where there's going to be fatalities or very serious physical injuries, shooting cases, they want to start doing blood work on everybody and getting blood samples now.
The other thing that I found was you have a statement from increased traffic enforcement. It looked pretty, would you just like to comment on that? Because one of the things I did discover in talking to Lieutenant Solik was that we don't give credit to traffic stops that people run away from us. And apparently that seems to be that's a problem on the Berlin Turnpike. If anybody would like to, either the lieutenants or the chief like to compliment?
I'm gonna start including stop stats.
I would appreciate that because it's important. Because apparently there's a lot of measuring of how many traffic stops we do. This is whether we're doing our job aside from everything else we've got going on.
Now, you're referring to the statement on page 7 that was put out as public information? Correct. Yes. So we use our social media to put out statements on a regular basis. And, you know, we just got approved for a rural roads grant. And I received an email this morning, actually, asking if we were going to join in on the distracted driving grant for April, or that was yesterday morning. I'm sorry, it was yesterday morning. And we haven't decided to put in for that grant because it takes a lot of our manpower to get those done. We used to do them regularly. And then when we lost people, we stopped doing them, but we've been talking about trying to do more enforcement in that area too. And that's directed for distracted driving. So yeah, I just put a statement out at the beginning of last month, in the last 4 weeks, about that we're continuing our enhanced traffic enforcement that we've been doing really since August. And our officers have been very aggressive, as you can see by our stop counts that we've been getting since July.
No, excellent, excellent work.
We're also getting 4 new radar units as a part of that grant.
Oh, really?
That saves the town, what, Mike, like $13,000?
A little bit more.
No.
Oh, that's amazing. Wonderful. All right, moving on from the chief's monthly report. Any commissioners have any other questions? Good. Okay. We have a verbal on the renovations and communications. Either the lieutenant or the chief or deputy chief. Anybody like to take that?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're down to punch list
stuff. I gave Doug Solik from Public Facilities a list of things. Production with kind of Solik. We still got a couple of camera issues that we're trying to work through. And some other punch list items. There
Okay.
hasn't been a great deal of activity by the contractor in the last couple of weeks. The electrician was in yesterday working on some things. And
Do you, any word on phase two as to what the situation is with that?
So we
No.
went to town council meeting last night, myself and Lieutenant Solik, we were discussing the flat cameras, which have been put into the capital budget.
Okay,
And so we did a brief presentation to the town council on the need for the flat cameras. And so as a part of that, they had some follow-up questions and they were asking us about some different updates as well. So we were
did you
providing.
get
them
positive
with some
feedback
updates.
from the town council?
Nothing negative.
I mean, it's not a process where they're voting for it yet. It's just the first step in the process. So we're just presenting the idea and what we're looking to have. And then now that still needs to go on to finance and, go through the whole budget process. So.
The request was for 36,000. It's for 12 cameras. There was an upfront cost for installation, which Flock has agreed to waive if we sign our contract within the next 30 days. So that would be $15,000 savings.
Right.
My question, I'll have to have a discussion with the salesperson. If we sign that contract and funding does not get approved, they need to put a provision in that contract that nullified obviously. So I'll tell them we can sign that if there's a provision that releases us if our final budget approval is approved.
Do we have any funds currently existing where we can start reallocating to get it?
It's 51,000. The full cost is 51,000, including installation, unless we do 30 days, then it's 36,000. And
But
then
do we
every
have
year after it's
36 we can-
36,000.
we
We
can-
don't have that.
In our budget somewhere we can't squeeze it up?
So we need cooperation from either the town council or the finance board or both.
There's no way for them to guarantee it. The budget doesn't get approved until when it's at.
We have a long way to
When's the
go.
referendum?
So in other words, we'll pay the 15,000 extra.
I'll ask the sales if they could just move a line in that contract that lets us out of it if,
Conditional.
because this wouldn't go in effect until July 1 anyway. They know our fiscal starts July 1. So if we do that, then hopefully we can get the installation.
Okay.
I'm sure they're just trying to cover sales goals. That's their incentive to get us signed on now instead of July.
One of the other big questions they asked, we want to cover it real quick. Some of the things I'm going to cover, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about a meeting we have coming up, the finance board, and they're asking a lot of questions on stuff. One of those was the radio system update. I think people hadn't heard much on that, and so they didn't think anything was happening, but actually that's not exactly the case. Lieutenant Martin came up with an update for us. Basically, what it boils down to is all the equipment is in, it's at NORCOM, it's being programmed. We have a schedule for our dispatchers to go to NORCOM, be trained in all the equipment. And the last 2 days and tomorrow, right? Actually, it was
Monday, Tuesday.
Monday,
today.
Tuesday, and Wednesday, they were there. They've reprogrammed all our portable and car radios to have the state frequencies. So we're well into this program, and we think the completion date for everything is going to be somewhere in the area of May for full implementation. So we are whipping along. We're in the final stages, really. I would say that
Good.
we're moving forward very quickly. So that's
And
enough.
let me
Yes.
add into that we've also reached out to all the surrounding towns and we're getting positive responses from all the other agencies to install their radio frequencies on our equipment and vice versa, so that we have total interoperability with everybody around us.
That's very big, and I realize we can set the parameters on the use of these cameras so that we don't overburden ourselves with anything that's, what is there, like 12 different things you can do, but we'll use 2 of 3
Oh, on the clock.
on the flock system?
Yeah.
Correct, right? All right, moving on to, thank you for the verbal reports, gentlemen. Moving on to Lieutenant Sean Solik's report. Would you like to comment? And I do have a couple of questions, but please go ahead. It's number 5 in the package.
Nothing too specific. cases, there's a couple of case updates in there. We've seen, over the past month or two, we have seen a frequent, vehicle thefts from Greenwich have been ending up in Berlin, Newington, and Britain area. So our task force officers working with these other, officers that are assigned there, sharing intelligence, tracking these vehicles. We actually had one in town today. So they've got some suspects in the area.
Did they actually get the vehicle?
I don't believe any of them have been recovered yet.
What is it? You just can't get to it quick enough? We're in the track. Is that the problem?
Yeah, most of them are Range Rovers, and the reporting from Range Rover is delayed slightly. So when they're reporting a location of these stolen vehicles, officers are responding, and it's, say, 2-minute delay. So it's not where they said it was anymore.
So the only way is if it's parked is the only way. you're
Plus, we
really
don't
gonna
have
get it.
clocks, so we're not getting real time.
No,
Well, no, I'm seriously,
it's-
like, if they drive into town with a stolen vehicle that's registered in the system, we would get a hit immediately.
In direction of travel, which is significant.
Yeah,
Mhm.
then we have a better chance of heading everybody into that area and to try and trap them somewhere, or maybe stop stick them before they can get out or something. So that's the kind of the intent for that.
And my first question would be, apparently, it says Detective Chafee assigned to an embezzlement case taken in federal law enforcement. Was it too big for us to handle?
Yes, the FBI brought in one of their forensic accountants, and this was a case well beyond any of our expertise. They spent hours and hours and days. They're still working on that case. But it is going to come to fruition at one point. So the FBI is going to take all enforcement for that as well.
Okay.
Multi-state, several $100,000 investment case.
Okay. And then the second question is that I can't believe this is, somebody actually did a quick claim deed against somebody's property?
Yes, this is a case that's still being looked at. It appears to be a forgery, but it's.
That's what all the commercials
It's
say.
well into civil court now as well. So we're consulting with GA15 to see if there's any criminal angle at this point. But it was a familial situation.
Mhm.
So it wasn't unknown who the parties involved were.
Oh, okay. So if it wasn't an appropriate question, my question would be, was the property paid off so somebody was able to do a quick claim because somebody thought that they ripped up that sheepskin or whatever?
So there was two people with no claim to the property, one of which no longer resided there and had no part of it anymore. Another one, it appears, may have conducted forgery to legally take full ownership, but by forgery.
Okay.
And then the proceeds were not shared with the other party that does have a legal.
Of course not.
So it's making its way through civil court, and I don't think there's going to be any criminal aspect to it.
All right. Thank you very much, Lieutenant Solid.
Since then, your report, sorry, the FTOs are on track for this month.
Yeah, one is off, one just got off FTO just within the last couple of days, Brody Mongelli, the other two are not too far.
Yeah. And before you move off of mine, I just want to touch on some of the goals.
No, go
that
for
we
it.
had in the
Absolutely,
chief's, report the goals. But I think it's important to highlight that it ties into our manpower. This is the first full month that the investigations division has had full manpower for what we've been striving for with our hires and our increasing strength. So we have our sergeant, we have our 4 full-time detectives. So our goals reflect that manpower. As you see, all of our goals are proactive in nature, and that's something that we can only do with the manpower we have. So that's why we're pushing so hard to do this thing. This is compliance checks for our local businesses that sell alcohol, tobacco. We've started that last week. We did our first alcohol compliance check. Probably hadn't done those since probably COVID times, I think.
To abbreviate, what do you do on a compliance check?
So we use a registered confidential informant, someone who's underage, and they get sent into establishments with liquor licenses. They try to buy liquor without an ID. If the business sells to them, they get a violation and it gets referred to liquor commission.
Gotcha.
Same thing will be happening with tobacco and vape sales. So we're going to be doing those 4 times, 2 for alcohol, 2 for tobacco and vape throughout the year. And then
we're going to be try to focus on some narcotics operations locally, which we haven't been able to do due to manpower in recent years. And also our goals we talked about in the past is possible task force assignment to the DEA. And get all of our operational numbers up to where we want them. That'll be something.
Very good. I appreciate your report. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to, we have a youth officer report. It's number 6. I guess, I would just, I realize this is you, so be careful with what I do say, but I do like the, I think that the big concern is, I noticed that one of the incidents involved bowling at school where it actually went home with a very upset young person that we had to intervene. I think that that's a really horrific problem that needs to be dealt with very seriously in the school system. And I'm just stating what my concerns are. If any of the commissioners have any comments, but I think bullying is absolutely, it's a life-changing event for some people. Really can send a lot to people. Okay, so it's one thing I had to say. All the other commissioners are all set. So that takes care of it. So moving on to support services, that's Lieutenant Joe. The thing is, we have your presence. Would you like to comment, please?
My stuff's not as exciting as all the paperwork, but,
It's very exciting.
we had our first year review for, accreditation, so that's already, been completed. And then, our desk grant, we're getting ready to place the order. We'll be, changing out our bulletproof desk. And so that order will probably be going in the next week or two. And the chief already spoke about the high risk railroad grant that includes enforcement, money for enforcement, and also the radar.
Wonderful. I see that on page 3 of your report that Officer Megan Santi is up to full speed here with what needs to be done.
Yes, she's hit the ground running.
Very good.
Questions?
Go ahead, please.
So, Kalia year 1, we passed, it's been
Yes,
good to go, okay.
Yep.
And then where do we stand with the state accreditation? Have we,
we just completed this thing.
and we, obviously, that's kind of a lot easier than Kalia, but we're good with there
Yeah,
too.
it's a lot more than it used to be.
Yeah, is it like 13
lot
or
of
18 points or something like
Yeah, I
that?
think it's even a little more than that.
It's
Yeah.
less for Kalia.
It's less for Kalia, but still, it was still fairly substantial.
Right, and then, I just, wanted to note that, year to date, $5,927 have been waived for private duty fee waivers.
By the town council.
Yeah, so I still would like to maybe get a joint meeting with the town council regarding, maybe setting some self-accepted parameters on where these private duty fee waivers start and end. Maybe that's something we explore in the future, so.
Give us money.
If I might, I think in the minutes of last month, we asked that a meeting be set up.
Yeah,
So how, I guess,
Who wants to initiate it, basically? is what we
where's
need
the
to
next
know.
steps, you know?
Would you like to handle that?
We have a meeting coming up and, our intent is to have.
Oh, that's great.
Lieutenant's,
March 6th.
Martin do a presentation on staffing levels, and what we need for staffing levels. So we're hoping to be able to do that presentation at that particular meeting. I'm gonna talk to you a little bit more about that meeting.
Yeah.
Put it in there.
if you could get me the date and time, maybe we can add in the agenda topic of discussion for that.
I'll be there. I'll make sure I'm there. So if you
We're
guys
hoping
want
everybody-
anything to ask, I'll do it.
Everybody possible on this commission could come, because we think that there's
Wish
gonna
I could.
be a lot of direction, a lot of questions that are being asked that are really probably not
They're over the,
appropriate for a finance board.
Mhm.
And it's really more appropriate for this commission here to oversee, rather than
right.
us being asked all the details of how money is being spent by a finance board, rather than.
Do you know what time it's at?
I do. We'll email you that. We'll email everybody the information.
I noticed on page 6, that we have the list, the summary of vehicle and mileage. And,
I have an updated list I'm gonna give you in just a second.
okay, wonderful. Because I do notice that we have
Yeah, that's.
cars are designated to chief, deputy chief, lieutenant 1, 2, and 3, detective 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then you have, where are the canine officers? They both have cars,
All right.
correct?
If you want to cover that now, I'll pass these out.
Yeah,
and
well,
we
it's
can-
here.
You want to pass these around?
Okay, thank you. But they get to take those cars home, correct?
Okay, so.
This is a more comprehensive list.
So the way this work, this is a more comprehensive list. We found that some of our VIN numbers and stuff and mileage just didn't match, so we checked every vehicle personally, and this is an updated list of that. So basically what we have is, this is a list of all our vehicles. There's been some questions as to what we do with some of our vehicles, and so we're gonna have a little discussion about that.
Okay.
The last time we met, we talked about take-home cars. And we did not really talk about the Bureau. So what we have is the chief and deputy and lieutenants have take-home cars, so that they are able to respond at any time. And the other benefit to that is when the lieutenant gets called in the middle of the night for an issue on patrol, he doesn't put in for overtime because he has a cruiser that he gains some benefit from that. So the lieutenants are all gracious enough that when we take care of issues on the weekends, they don't put in for overtime unless they have to physically come to the station to take care of an issue. So that's kind of one of our give and takes for that. And honestly, it's an industry standard for command staff to have take-home cars. And that includes in our department, lieutenants, our division commanders, which are captains in a lot of larger departments. And so that's why we do that. We also have 2 cars that are taken home by canine officers. Those cars are door-to-door cars. You take that home, park it in your driveway, you're not allowed to use that car to drive around town and get groceries or anything like that. And that's just, you drive it home and then it's available for you to have if you get a canine call out. The other batch of cars we have is our Detective Bureau cars. We had a lot of problems in the past where we had a lot of difficulty getting hold of detectives to come in on the weekends. And one of the problems was we didn't have an on-call system. Detectives didn't get paid to wait around and get a call. They got no benefit from that. There was no comp time, no overtime on the weekends. So we worked out an agreement where 2 things happen. Number one, we give all the detectives their car to go door to door. So they drive that car home, park on their driveway. They can't use it again to go back to work unless they have a call out. So if they get a call out, the benefit to us is they can get in the car with all their equipment, go directly to the scene, which saves quite a bit of time. It also relieves some of the pressure in our parking lot. And I got to tell you, if you've ever driven to our station in the day, there was nowhere to park. So we literally have trouble with evening shifts when they come trying to get them parking spots. So kind of one of the reasons we're trying to get some of the cars out of the lot. But again, those are door-to-door cars. They do take those home, but then they're not allowed to use them again, except for the one detective who was on call for that weekend. They were able to use that car so that if they're out and about and they're in it, they can then respond from where they are. We have one car we keep that there was some question from someone about. Essentially, we have a car, and on your list, it says Old Jobs because we have to infuse humor in just about everything we do. So that car is Old Jobs's car, which was Old Susie's car, and then Old Gallup's car, and then Old Jobs's car. So that's been passed down, and we basically keep that essentially. I hesitate to use the word spare, but that's a multi-use car so that if a command staff car breaks down, and I'll give you a situation. Tuesday, I came in and me and the chief were going to training. His car was in getting programmed. My car smelled like a burning smell in it. We had to send it to the garage, so we jumped in that car to go to our in-service training for that day. We use that as a spare canine car. We have no other cars that can really be used as a spare canine car. We use that as an unmarked spare car for the Bureau. We use it as a school car. If somebody needs to go to school in or out of state, they can use that car. That's really the only car we have that we have the flexibility to use as a spare. And that's why we have that car available to us. The rest of the cars are all listed. And one of our concerns is that the finance board has been asking a lot of questions about the cars. And so we want to keep all you informed as to what we do. If you take a look down this list, and one of the things that we do is when we replace the chief's car, we then send that car to the Detective Bureau. That's the only way that we replace detective cars, because you're not going to buy a new car and put it in the Bureau when they don't put many miles on. So all our old detective cars, except for one, are old chief's cars, and they are getting extremely old. If you look at our list,
Yeah. you got 11, 14.
we've got
16, 30.
85,000, 99,000, 98,000, 86,000. These are the mileages on these old cars, so we need to have a system where we replace command staff cars and then send those to the bureau, and then the oldest cars will go back to the town and they can utilize them as well. So I want to talk to you a little bit about the funding we have for the cars, and this may become an issue, and this came up at the town council meeting last night. This is the first year where the town has taken the surcharge from private duty and put that into a separate account. At the end of the year, they then transferred that money into an account for us to use for vehicles. So this year was the first year we did it. We got $150,000. That sounds like a lot. It's not. It's basically, we can buy 2 cars with that and that's it. So generally what happened is every year in the capital budget, they would put somewhere in the area of $250,000 in there for cruisers. And we would replace whatever vehicles need replacing. And the 250,000 used to pay for about 4 cars. It doesn't anymore. It's about 3 cars now. So we did get the 150,000. We used part of that to buy a pickup truck that we got from Morandi Ford that had been refused by another police department who chose to go a different route. And in buying that car now, it's a 250. It's a bigger 250 pickup truck, and we needed that to tow our trailers, like our dive trailer and all that. It's overweighted for the 150 we were using. So the town will take the 150, we'll get that. So we use some of the funds for that, which only leaves us enough money left to basically buy 1 more car. So we're still looking for funding from the finance board for the 250,000 that Chief Simons put in for us to get money for cars.
So does it
So-
250 minus the 100 that we're carrying over?
Well, that money's still in the account.
Okay.
It doesn't go away. It doesn't go away from year to year. This is a carryover account. So whatever we have stays in there. So my point is, it'll come up that we're getting money from the town for cars, but that's not a guarantee every year. And we only got enough to buy a couple of cars. There's some left over, so we could use that, add that to more and get another car from that. So if they gave us the 250, we could probably get 4 cars total from that. We have at least 2 or 3 line cars that need to be replaced that are in the 80,000s range now for mileage. 83,000, 88,000, 76,000. These are several line cars that need replacement as well. So that's going to be an issue that's going to come up. But so we did get some funding, but we need additional funding to buy additional cruisers.
So our needs are about 4 cruisers then.
Yeah.
And
Don't
we'll-
our old cars go to the town highway? or
The old
Oh, they
cars
all
go to the town, but basically what's been happening is as we increase the size of our department, we also need to increase the size of the fleet. And that's given the town a lot of heartburn because all our cars usually get turned over to the town and then they would drive them for other things. But now we're keeping some of those cars because we're increasing the size of our fleet. So they're not getting the cars they used to get before. So they don't have as many to utilize, but
Sorry.
it's not really a,
Yeah.
they don't budget for new cars
But-
for.
And we don't get any economic consideration for the fact that we're supplying cars to other departments.
And we usually, I mean, in the past several years we've been on, I
Nice
feel
for
like
them,
it's been
right?
budgeted approximately.
Right.
We've been budgeted approximately, in theory, 3 or 4 cars, and frequently that'll get cut from the budget.
Right,
And so there have been years that we haven't gotten any cars.
right. And probably the question is gonna be asked is, what are you gonna do with the money when we give it to you? Well, I don't know, because when you give us money, you're gonna have to go through the entire budget process. We're gonna have to order cars. That's gonna take about a year for the cars to come in, longer to outfit. So we're not gonna know exactly where we need to use them. And so we kind of get towards the end of that process. So if you ask me today, if we give you 3 cars, where are they gonna go? I'm not necessarily gonna have an answer because in another year, the mileage may change on these cars or priorities might change. So that's something that kind of unfolds, but the funding is still important for us to get. And just because we get the funding from the alternate source, now my fear is they're just not going to give us any more. But we really have to replace a few cars a year. I mean, these line cars, we get a lot of miles on them.
What do we get this year or this past year?
So far, we got enough for 2 cars. We got the 150,000.
No cars that we've actually incorporated into our fleet.
If you look at the
Haven't
years,
received any.
2023 was the last year car we have.
Yeah.
Any 24s.
Yeah,
24,
I
nothing.
mean, we had cars last
We
year.
got 2 cars last year,
Yeah,
18 and.
we got 2 cars. One of those was on a state grant. That was the supervisor's vehicle that was replaced.
Yeah, 23 was the last year I see that we got new
Yeah.
cars.
So we're kind of investigating a couple of different things. We were looking to maybe getting a couple Chevy Tahoes and using those as command staff supervisor vehicles. Like the sergeants carry a lot more equipment in their cars than the regular patrol cars. So it'd be nice to have something a little bigger. So we're looking into perhaps doing that.
Okay.
Jim Simons has kind of given us approval, so we're kind of in the works.
We're gonna deal with this on
Yeah.
March 6th, correct?
Yeah.
All
I
right,
just
well-
wanted to make sure you guys understood how this all
No,
works.
that's very good.
so-
Thank you very much. The only other thing I noticed quick is that, it looks like we got a grant approval confirmation.
That's the
what we
grant.
had talked about earlier.
That's the highway safety grant.
Right, let's move on. We're here,
Number 8.
is there any other questions on, we're going to 8, which is patrol operations divisions, Lieutenant Martin.
Okay, couple just things to note on the significant events. I don't know if you noticed, we had a car stolen. One of our town cars was stolen and recovered in the middle. Somebody's out there with a fleet key for the old Crown Vics.
Oh my God. Several towns were hit.
And it's, yeah, so
The
that's
old
what that
Crown
was. That was an old Crown Vic that was plugged.
I have a question on that. Sorry to interrupt, but from my interpretation of reading it, and your investigation, did the town know that it was, okay, so that's problematic.
Right.
I hope
It
that's.
wasn't a PD car. so
No, I know.
I
Probably
think it
nurses
was
or
actually over
something,
the weekend.
and it was
They
stolen over
didn't
the
know until
weekend.
the next week.
Yeah. Oh, okay, so it's not like they went about their merry business at work and,
No,
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 no, I think it was the next.
This doesn't get used on.
okay, all right. I mean, there should be some accounting now, right? Like, there should be a checking now. All right.
Now,
It's a pool car, so it's not a car that like an employee uses. It was a car that sits there, and if someone needs a car, they'll grab the keys for that.
You get
car.
where I'm going, right? Like, my concern is if it didn't get caught, like,
right.
How
they
long
could have
did-
been driving for a
How long
month
would they have been?
and then like, dude, where's my car?
And then a couple of officers made a car stop and got a gun. Not as sexy a call as you would think, because the guy did have a prior permit. Car stops are up a little bit. We're up about 15% this month. I had a staff meeting this week with my sergeants. Strongly reiterated the need for aggressive motor vehicle enforcement. Based on what I've heard on the radio the last few days, that message was received. Good. So our stops should be up, I would hope. I just looked at February and we're tracking well in February, but it is obviously a shorter month.
We're gonna add non-stoppers to that list too now.
We are. That, it's not a significant number, it's probably 4 or 5 a month, but it's 4 or 5 more attempts to stop a car, so everything matters.
Everyone matters.
Now to my favorite topic, staffing. Oh, no, overtime was pretty good this time.
We're holding pretty steady on the overtime. We're right on the
We're-
line.
I mean, we're trending in the right direction. I think it was 47, 45, 45, 159. And I just looked at February. Obviously, we're not through the month yet, but we're only at 27 for February. So I'm hoping February will come in under 40, but who knows, from in the next 10 days, what happens. I don't want to predict the future. The one thing, and I gave Commissioner Beck one of these earlier, but I don't know if you guys have ever seen this or have interest in it, but this is our organizational chart that I did. It kind of gives you a graphic of where our people are and what we have for staffing, and that's a full staffing of 46 breakdown.
The pastor's got like the names too.
Mhm.
I appreciate that.
I'm saying,
Threw
I
the
can't reach
zinger
it.
right there.
see my last.
Oh.
Next month.
And now this is another organizational chart with the boxes in red are the potential losses of people as of June 2028.
This is what this is.
That's what that one is. The boxes in red are the people that could potentially leave. For Commissioner Bacon, we negotiated a pension a few years ago.
Yep.
Right, 5-year vesting for all current employees. Well, that vesting expires.
For some in the next few years.
Yeah, well, for everyone who is an existing employee, the vesting period ends July 1 of 2028.
Okay.
So there are 12 people who theoretically could retire. Now, we've had no normal attrition in 5 years because of that. So people that would perhaps have retired in the meantime
We lose one or two.
can't because they're waiting to be vested in the pension.
So
make
So the
copies.
red
Cliff is July 1.
Right, exactly.
Sean, you're-
When we go to that, when we go to the,
You're it.
So the attrition is usually high. and then-
Correct. So the red
Godspeed.
box.
He's gonna make a presentation as to that.
The red boxes represent
As long
those
as
who
they will allow
could leave. Now, I'm not saying all those people are going to leave, but I suspect that we're going to lose 6 to 8 of the 12 within 6 months of July of
Yeah.
2028, which is going to cause, obviously, some issues when it comes to staffing. And when you look, there's a lot of command staff and supervisory staff.
And institutional knowledge, just leaving. Like I'm looking at the traffic, go back.
So I've been working on a succession plan that over the last several months that it's actually completed. We want to do a presentation at some point that is, and the succession plan is more a training plan to get people that are
In
still going to
place.
be here
Yep.
so they can be in place. But the other thing we're going to need to do is hire.
Mhm.
On the
A
back.
lot.
Well, and no, actually, ideally, we want to hire in
short
advance.
Yeah. proactive.
Yeah.
At least some
Thank you.
proactively. So we may have to increase staffing. Now, if the town will go to 50, I think we can weather this storm with a number of 50. But if we're at 46 and maybe we're at 44, 45, because you never stay at full strength, to drop down to 38 or 37 or 36 employees is a serious problem.
we're gonna have this discussion on March 6th.
We are, but I'm just giving you guys
No, I know. I agree with you.
the first, preview.
Thank you for the visual. This is very helpful for me. Hearing it doesn't like really equate sometimes.
Yeah, no, this is right in your face.
Yeah.
I mean, it's serious.
I did, and we've talked about this before, and I think I've included this before. This is the staffing analysis. It's the NSA staffing analysis worksheet. I plugged in our actual numbers, our actual calls for service, our actual 2-person calls, actual arrests, number of police reports written, how much time it takes on average to write reports. These are not, my point is, these are not made up numbers. These are our actual 2022, 2023 numbers. Vacation days, I took an average of 21. After 5 years, our employees get 16 vacation days and 5 personal days. So anybody with 5 years or more has 21. That doesn't include their 13 holidays that they have in a bank. But you can take that as cash or use the days. So I didn't include that. So, that could sway this number higher if we did, but I really wanted to be conservative to not look like I was padding the numbers of what we need for staffing. And I let the chips fall where they may. And if you look on page 2, we have an average of about 4 people leave a year, whether they leave to other agencies or they retire or, for whatever, that's been the historical average. If you look at that through this staffing analysis, they say we need 50.
There you go. And that's another presentation. we're gonna
Understood.
Talk about.
So,
Never so high.
and I think realistically, 46 operationally is the right number. I mean, if we have 46 people on the road in positions, we can fulfill, Chief, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we can fulfill all of the things that we would like to do with DEA, full-time DEA task force person, adequate number of people in patrol. We'd really like to go to a 4-person minimum so that we have that extra person on the road.
Especially when you're going up 4 stories in a building.
Well, those are all gonna be 2-person calls. You know, we don't get a lot of domestics in this town, and it's not because they're not happening. It's because they're not being reported. Because people who are involved in domestics aren't the ones that call the police, it's the neighbors. And when you're in a town full of single-family homes, the neighbors aren't hearing it. When your next door neighbors are arguing and screaming and, you know, throwing things against the wall, there's no report of it. But when you have multifamily buildings, you get those calls. You know, I spent 21 years in the city of Britain where we were getting 8 to 10, 12 domestic calls a day. And I think you're gonna see an uptick in those kind of calls, family violence type calls, with all those multifamily buildings that are gonna be opening. So that's also gonna be, you know, a draw on our resources. So over and over and over, we've been asked to show us why you need the numbers. And
Those are the numbers.
And this isn't counting, because we have all that housing. I was looking at the housing that's coming into town. And I'm not even gonna try to pull the number, but it was a significant number of.
Hundreds.
Of
Hundreds of
single,
units.
yeah, of units, and, you know, figuring that 2 bedrooms, you're probably gonna get 4, the 1
Yeah.
bedroom, 1 or 2. Like, that's not including any of those numbers.
No.
When you're figuring this is.
no,
still
because I
falling-
didn't want to try to guess of what our uptick in our calls are. You know, don't forget, our calls for service numbers haven't really gone up over the last few years.
Mhm.
But the types of calls, the types of numbers that we're entering have, if we're down 2,000 car stops annually, that's 2,000, this number should be lower, but it's not. It's, you know, holding steady with our calls for service historically. And,
Outside of cars.
and we're not doing as many car stops. We haven't since COVID. We're, you know, we're not doing, you know, as many school walkthroughs and those other things because we're tied up on criminal cases.
Are we responding, do you think, more to the mental health? Is there more of a police response to mental health in recent years? I mean, I kind of already know the
It's
answer.
huge.
Being a clinician,
huge.
but
I don't
And
know
how
that
are
a
we-
shift goes by that we don't have
I mean,
an emergency committal or a psych call.
so how are we, I know other departments are working proactively and partnering with like CMHA and Wheeler and having them kind of, the clinician and an officer follow up on the calls
Mhm.
together. How have we explored
we
things like
have used,
that?
we have used Wheeler and 211 to actually do a response to some people that are known to us.
Yeah,
That, you know, we know.
not actively suicidal.
We've
and-
been there 7
Mhm.
times and we know they don't have any guns
Mhm.
because we took them the first time we were there. And we've used Wheeler to actually go out and respond to some
Okay.
of those instead of a police response.
Okay.
You know, so we use it when when we think it's appropriate, but there are times when you don't know.
Yeah,
And you're not gonna send a social worker, or, you know, into what could potentially be dangerous.
you said business.
All right.
Well,
But
but
I'm glad you guys do, thank you.
Okay,
Well,
so
a social worker doesn't have the training officers have to deal with potentially escalating situations.
right, well, the violence.
There's a different,
You know,
But they're better at dealing with the emotionally disturbed people because that is their forte. So, you know, there's kind of a marriage of multiple disciplines here. But so when it's appropriate, we send in clinicians when we can.
and that's, and I
Interesting.
know more and more departments are partnering with clinicians. Granted, they're in bigger towns, like I know Bristol has actually the cop that runs the program is a licensed clinician. So you've got the police, and he goes out with a clinician, he just happens to also be a licensed.
What's the name of the team in Wheeler? I can't think of it. You
Um,
probably know.
the
response
community
team.
response team.
Yeah, right. So we've had them come out.
Yeah, and the similar.
All right. We're gonna move on
Well,
now.
it might have been CMA, it may be CMA.
We're gonna, that's
Sometimes
good.
we get a call from them that they're out somewhere.
And they need
without
something.
any knowledge, and they need some.
I'm just wondering,
Sometimes they can do committal. But
Yes.
sometimes that employee that has that particular license isn't there, and they need us to do committal for someone.
so there's just,
All right, so we're good. So let's move on to, administration operations training report. Drew Gallup is very quick. Anything you want to compliment? Make a comment on there?
So I'm gonna add one thing. I'm gonna press for time. I'm gonna talk fast. We put in for an FOI position which really was part-time, it could be full-time. We're just absolutely overwhelmed with FOIs. I'm gonna read you an FOI that we just got yesterday as an example of the stuff we're getting. So this was a minor rear end crash. This is their FOI. I'm requesting the following records, all reports, including all supplemental reports pertaining to this case, all body worn and dashboard camera footage related to this case, all emergency dispatch, fire, police, ambulance, reports, audio clips, phone recordings pertaining to this case, all text messages and voicemails for a particular officer or any supervisor or officer that were on the scene of this case, all training records related to this officer or any supervisor or any other officer on the scene of this particular accident. That relates to any training record they received concerning cultural diversity, interacting with individuals of various backgrounds, interacting with senior citizens, training regarding motor vehicle license seizure, bias-based training, implicit bias-based, all past sustained discipline for this officer or any other supervisor or officer on scene, all complaints and investigations filed against this officer or any other officer or supervisors on the scene. Daily roll call schedules for this particular officer, officers and supervisors, all that were on that scene. All Berlin Police Department policies, procedures, general orders, training bulletins pertaining to motor vehicle accidents and taking of this individual's driver's license for medical purposes, which was the crux of the issue. This person's license was seized due to the inability that we felt not to drive the car. Any Berlin Police Department policy, procedures, general orders, you get the idea, right?
Yeah, they're being ridiculous.
So we're taking
Yeah.
several people that's gonna take days and days to try and compile this information. And just a quick example, this is why we need some help with FOI.
Could you please bring that to March 6th? That's
I'd be
perfect.
happy to.
Perfect. Okay, moving on.
That's just one example.
Does the
that's
police
amazing.
department charge per page?
Yeah,
Yeah,
for
50
copies,
cents.
it was like 50
Yeah,
cents.
so,
I mean,
so
what
the-
And the hours of redaction.
kind of constricted
Yeah,
by
and the
law,
hours too. And
how much you can
Yeah.
charge.
I mean,
officers.
hours is the max.
Yeah, we voted on that.
Oh, really?
Years ago.
Oh, it's all, we pay for it all.
We pay for it all, because if you think about the hours of
You
body
can't charge
cam, you
them.
have to have.
Can't charge them for the hours.
Yeah, but if it takes you
go through
6 months
body
to
cam
get it.
Footage redacted.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I understand, but we have,
Redaction has already-
Takes probably months.
We have a-
redaction.
we have a $30 cap. We can't charge more than $30. I
State-
think it's,
state law.
it is?
the law.
Yeah.
Since when? Oh, do you know when? That
Yeah.
changed?
And if somebody says they're indigent,
Yeah.
we write you a little note that they're indigent, then they don't
Can't
charge
charge
it
them.
at all.
There's
Yeah,
a bill
that's
at the
true.
legislature that's seeking to be recompensed for the cost of it. So they're exploring that. I don't know where it's.
That's where it needs to go.
I doubt that's me. But anyway, so that's where we're in, and so it's definitely not a frivolity that we're looking for additional manpower. And why should we have certified officers and lieutenants and sergeants compiling all this information? We can have somebody that's a retired cop that understands all of that. That makes
Absolutely.
half the money that will.
No question about that.
Clerks can't do their day job, also because they're focused on this stuff.
Well, look at it's a time killer, which takes away from everything else that we're responsible
Right.
for. No
For
doubt.
me to redact a real case, a fatal crash or something like that, it's 24 to 36 hours of my time.
Yeah, you have to do it. Yeah,
Right.
a lot.
That's the last thing I have, just so you know.
All right, well, I just, the budget looks like we're good. We still got 41% remaining.
Yes, we're pretty on track with that, surprisingly.
And the freedom of information, that's the last thing that goes without saying.
Dave,
Um,
something real quick.
Yes.
I don't know who it would be, but can we get a copy, all the commissioners of the union contracts? Just to see what's in there. I just, we just saw the chief's contract today. I'd like to know what's in there. With your report, I saw 7 DUIs in there. That's fantastic. That's a
Right.
lot of hard work, and I saw a lot of the same names in there, Bennett, Dufour.
Yeah,
Um,
got some of these young guys that are. crushing
yeah,
it.
and they're crushing it, and they're the heavy hitters at the top of the traffic stops.
Couple of years.
So please extend my many thanks to the ones who are working. There are some people who are brand new and aren't working as hard as I would have liked to see in the traffic stop arena, but I'm sure you're all over that, so.
Okay, so I guess we're at the end of our meeting. We need a motion for adjournment.
No,
We're gonna do another vote.
yes, hold on.
That's correct.
There's probably a couple that are going.
Wait, we need to make him chairman. If you want. Yeah, sorry.
Anybody wants to join the Police Commissioners Association of Connecticut, I can send you applications. There's an association.
All right, hold up.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
All right, that's it.
So I'll
No, no, I
PDF
know, but
that,
I
send
was-
it to your handwriting.
So we're gonna do,
I'm going to make a motion to add to the agenda the election of chairman and vice chairman for the police commission per town charter. We're supposed to do it the first meeting of February every year. So motion to add that to the agenda first.
I'll second that motion.
all in favor?
Aye.
So we need to make nominations.
I make a motion to nominate Dave Rogan for chair.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank
I
you.
move to nominate Ryan Zellick as vice chair.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, commissioners. We appreciate getting through this. There's a lot of work tonight. Far more than we normally do by a long shot, so hopefully.
We just did it because we were here first.
Yes,
That's
sir,
right, of
Commissioner.
course.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Now, this was a long
First
one.
meeting.
Yeah, I enjoyed it very much. It's interesting. Absolutely. They're not all like this, I am.